So for me, I always knew technology without trust was not going to fly.
Welcome to the Mikey G podcast experience. What up, folks? We are back. I couldn't be more excited. I know I'm going to nail this. Dr. Omoruwa German, welcome to the show. Did I nail it?
Yeah, you did. Omoruwa German. Thank you so much.
How are you doing? Welcome to the show. Are you excited about being on the podcast?
Yes, I am. I'm really excited. Really excited. So that's why I'm smiling so much. Yeah.
Good, because I love that you're smiling. I know we're going to have a beautiful conversation. Before we get to the world famous Mikey G podcast question, we always like to do a little formal introduction with guests. So Dr. Omoruwa German, she is the founder of ChroniTrack Health. Really excited to talk about that because this idea came from being a community pharmacist for, how long did you say you were a community pharmacist for?
For over 6 years now.
How long were you a pharmacist?
Over
6 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, over 6 years. And when you were talking to me about that, I think there's a lot of interesting concepts about that. One of the other things that was really exciting when I first met you is you're just multifaceted. You're also an artist. You do makeup. You're a web designer. But the most important part where we really deeply resonate is you're a bread lover. And I freaking
Yeah.
love bread too. I learned how to make my own.
All types of bread.
What is your favorite? Yeah, what is your favorite type of bread or top two breads is the question.
Okay, so my favorite type of bread is agege bread. It's a type of Nigerian sweet butter bread. That is the best bread you can ever have in your life.
Oh my God.
Yes,
That
and
sounds
then
amazing. We're going to
yeah,
have that.
you have to
What
try
else?
it. And then I like the Turkish bread. Very nice. The Turkish flatbread.
Yeah, the Turkish bread. But the Nigerian butter bread, which is a
You need to
beautiful way
try
to
it. Ask
describe
any
it.
Nigerian you
I don't know
know.
how much it's going to cost. Yeah, I don't know how much it's going to cost, but I might have to just like send some
Yeah,
extra money, give you my address, and you know you need to ship some way
yeah,
because
yeah,
that
yeah. I have
sounds
to do that.
incredible. All right, so here we are. We're already here. Nice formal little introduction. So, the world famous Mikey G podcast question. Dr. Omoruwa German, how did you get to the seat you're sitting in today? To reiterate for the audience who has never watched this show before, how we do it here. So we go through chapters. It's all about the life chapters. And remember, we are always framing. This is a reflective process. We are really excited, and I am really excited to learn why you think the way you think, insights, lessons learned throughout your journey, because those are the things that really help people out in life. And like we talked about a little bit before, I think technology all converges on us. Hopefully being more human. Those are the things that we need to do, and that's what we're about to do here. So, chapter 1 for the audience, it is Dr. Omoruwa German's childhood. Prompted questions here. Remember, vivid memories from your parents or parental figures. Tinker, did you play sports? Were there mantras from your parents or parental figures that be kind, pay it forward? What were those things when you reflect back that really stuck with you, that helped mold the way you think you do, and doing all the awesome things that you do, right? You're multifaceted, but you're also trying to help people on the health side, which is a really beautiful thing to do. Chapter 2, your schooling, professional career. We'll talk about you being a community pharmacist, but remember, we want we want like a biography here, which will set the stage. But what happened during those times where you had a big aha light bulb moment, or you had a huge success or a massive failure? And what did you learn from that? This is so powerful to share those stories. And then chapter 3 is obviously you being the founder of your health company today, what you're currently doing, and what the next 3 to 6 months look like. And then we shut it down, and the beginning of the friendship has been born. So
Okay.
we are at chapter one. Start
Okay.
wherever you want. Give me a sentence or two. I cannot wait to hear it.
Okay. So thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm really, really excited. So let me talk about my
Of course.
childhood. So I grew up with my parents, my mom and my dad. And I grew up mostly with my mom though. So my mom is a businesswoman. She was into a lot of business. She was into clothing business, into the food industry. She was a caterer. So basically, this is not new to me. So I grew up in that kind of environment where business is the norm. And then I
Mm,
was always encouraged to,
right.
be brave, go out there and, do big things. So my parents were really, really invested in my education. They gave me the best of everything that was available to me, the best schools, the best of tutors. So yeah, I would say I had a beautiful childhood and I was exposed to a lot of things early on. I was exposed to the world, I would say, and I was really, really I happened to be a very, very active child. I used to play soccer. And at a point I was a tomboy, but I was always playing with the boys, playing soccer, playing football, playing basketball. And then I have brothers, so that also shaped my life. So I have lots of brothers. So it's like it's normal for me to, be bold and to be brave because, there's no one telling me that, you can't do this. Yeah. So that really shaped my life. And
Mm-hmm.
for the
Mm-hmm.
business part, I grew up being, will I say, assistant associate at all of my mom's, business ventures. So I learned customer service. It was like I was training for my future as it is right now, but I didn't know then because I learned a lot about, balancing the books, doing, things because I always go to represent my mom in places and then my dad as well. I represent him in his meetings. So I was exposed early on to life and I had a really, really good childhood. I went to the best of schools and I made lots of friends. And then we're really close. I have a close knit family. So every holiday I'm always in my cousin's place or they're always at mine. So we basically grew up as one big family and I would say it really helped me till now because my family is my backbone. And anytime I feel like I want to falter or something is off with me, I can always, count on my family to be there for me. So I'm really, really appreciative that I grew up in that manner. And yeah, that's it. And yeah, yeah. What else will I
That
say?
is
Yeah, okay.
no, keep on going. You're on a roll if you have more stuff.
I'm
I've
just
got a
thinking of what to
million
say.
questions already.
Okay, ask me a question. Ask me a question.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you just covered enough to talk for a long time. So, you talked about your quality education, talked about your close knit, massive family. Use the word bravery at a young age. I think that's an interesting topic because you don't hear that much. For you to reflect back and recognize that that was like an inherent lesson that you learned, I definitely want to go down that path a little bit. You talked about being exposed to many, many, many things. Um, what do you think? Because you saw, yeah, I also get the sense that you seem like an incredibly grounded human being.
I
When
try
you
to
look
do.
back at this moment in time, out of but I can't it's one thing for somebody to say it. There's another thing where I can feel it. And I feel that like you really mean well, you're intentional, you're grounded, and you just listed a litany of things. If you were to pick one reflecting back, what do you think that was that like helped you really be level headed and set and kind of you said this kind of exposure to everything. So it seems kind of well rounded too. Looking back, what
Okay.
would be like the number one thing that makes you feel was a massive impact for that?
Okay. So I would say it's the discipline that I was brought up with. There was
Mm,
no room for too much failure. It's not like you can't fail, but you will be reminded that this is not you. You have to do better, and you have the resources. You have everything at your disposal. It's just for you to wake up and do the work. So my family, we are very,
yeah.
very encouraging. Even if you feel like, or you don't feel like you can do it, somebody will call you, somebody will reach out to you, somebody will, speak life into you. So I always have that and I'm very, very grateful. So I would say discipline is the number one factor in my life that shaped me because without the discipline I got from my parents, I wouldn't be. I would say I'm intelligent. I'm very intelligent, but there would have not been enough structure to be able to, encapsulate my kind of energy. So discipline really, really helped me because when you are disciplined, you do your homework on time, you do your chores on time, you do your after work, you know, things on time. You go to the shop and help out at the shop, after you finish your things, or maybe during the weekend you go and sit in your mom's. Like I go out to my mom's shop, sit in my mom's shop, help with the business. So everything really boil down to the discipline to know your left from your right, to know what to do and what not to do. And another thing that really was ingrained in me was contentment, not looking at someone's thing, but, striving to get your own. Because, when you're growing up as a young girl, your friends be like, oh, can I get your makeup? Can I get your lipstick? Can I get your earring? Can I borrow your dress? Or do you want to borrow mine? So my mom made it a point of Oh, she made it, she rang it in my ears. Be contented with what you have. Be contented with what you have. So if I look at myself and I'm not contented with what I have at the moment, I know I have to, work and get something so that I can be contented with what I have. So it was those two things really, really shaped me. Discipline and then the fact that you need to be contented with what you have. And if you're not contented, if you're not content with what you have, then work hard so you can afford what you want.
Those are two incredible topics. But you said, see, this is why I told you, don't worry, because even these two, we can go down a lot of paths. We have plenty to talk about. You said something so interesting to me, which was um, discipline in your life, but it was nuanced in the way you presented it. Because one of the first things that you said when you were describing discipline was um, having somebody from your family remind you or give you the courage and the confidence as well too, right? Because a lot of times when you hear the word discipline or how people get discipline, it kind of comes with these negative connotations of like really regimented and hardcore. But what I'm trying to say is the way you described it in the beginning, there was like a softer element to that, which was like almost disciplined. And one of the reasons you were able to be that is because you had a support network that helps you do that. Does that sound right? Is there anything there? Am I off?
No, you're right. You're right. Having the support it is very, very, very necessary. But when you have that support, you still have to have your own
Mhm.
spark. So sometimes if your spark is, coming down and you have the support, then you are back on your feet and then you are able to, move forward. So you still have to have your spark because with people encouraging you, if you have nothing, then nothing will happen. So, having your own spark and then having a
Yes.
network to fall back on really, really important, and it has really, really shaped me.
And so you brought up just yet another fascinating topic, which is spark, right? So now looking back, like think about the millions of people they understand the spark is missing. And what would be your advice going and being exposed to all this? How do you think about finding your own spark? Because that's a fascinating topic.
So for me, there's the easy way,
And
and
there's no
then
right or
there's the hard way. So the easy way would be
oh, talk to me about these two different paths.
okay. So I'm just going to say the way I see it in my own brain, like the way it works in my brain. So the easy way, if you're trying to get your spark back, the easy way is to wait it out, do things that are interesting to you, go to places, talk to friends, travel. That's the easy way out. For me, I'm not saying like for everyone. It would take time, but it's easier
Yeah,
because
this is always framed
mentally.
in your personal experience.
Okay, yeah. So it's easier somewhat, but it's I would say it's easier mentally on the person because you're not putting in mental work to, try to claw your way back to your true self. It will take time, but that's the easy way because at time might not heal all wounds, but it helps. So when you are doing the easy way out, take your time, go out, travel, take or do things that remind you of yourself. That's the easy way out. Then for me, for the hard way, if you're trying to get your spark back and you are like in a time, like you have like a timeline or something, I would say you just have to look at yourself and do a mind inventory. Then you have to look at your fears. You just have to look at them in the face and then decide if you're going to overcome them or not. Because everything we go through in this life, really, it is mental first, spiritual or mental first. You understand? So
Yeah. Yeah.
you
100%.
must do a mind inventory, bring it all out. The things that you are even afraid to, write or talk about, just write it out. Write it on a piece of paper and look at it, actually look at what you are running away from. And then it's hard because it
Yeah.
takes a lot of mental strength to, face your fears. Because your fear is what most people is like holding them back from actually activating or like elevating. So you have to do a mental inventory of your mind and know what it is you can do, what it is you cannot do. And the things you can do, thank God for them. The things you cannot do, you dispose of them. And disposing of them seems easy to say, but it is not easy to do because what you might need to let go of might be what you are holding on to the most. So that's why I said it's hard.
Right.
So you can just take
And
time and
it's
let it go
look at you.
slowly.
Look at you.
Uh,
Yeah. Look at you. You are dropping so many beautiful insights. This is all we're trying to do here. That was that was absolute gold, right? And I think one of the things as you were describing it though, and you actually talked about it, it was one, how do you physically do the mind map? Because I think that's interesting. You're just like writing it down. My question to you, because I have an opinion, I'm not going to tell you my opinion first because I'd love to hear yours. This process of the hard way out, the mind inventory, going through these things. Um, where do you rank that on the list of things of like hard versus easy things to do in life, and on top of that, the importance of doing such a thing to have a fulfilling life?
mm, to me, I would say if you really want to have a fulfilling life, you have to do the hard one because then you will be able to hold
Hmm.
yourself accountable. If you cannot do the hard
Hmm.
stuff, if you cannot hold yourself accountable, how then do you expect to be disciplined enough to do what needs to be done? You understand me? So if you
Hmm.
want to
Mm.
live a
Yeah.
fulfilled life, you have to be willing to do the hard stuff. Even though it's really hard, it seems like almost like, should I do this? Other people are not doing this. You don't really need this. But if you want to stand for yourself, you must do the hard stuff. You must do it. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I actually say this often. Will love your just reaction to this comment, which is I talking to so many awesome people like yourselves. And I mean, I'm hundreds of probably 250, close to 250 founders at this point. One of the things that consistently comes up is usually the right thing to do in life is the harder thing to do. Does that
Yeah,
resonate with you? You agree,
yeah,
disagree?
yeah. Yeah, I agree so much because the thing you're holding on to the most might just most times is the thing you have to, let go of. And it could be different things. It could be something mental. It could be a close physical, like someone maybe you're in a relationship with, or someone that you have worked with for a long time. But if you are not strong enough, mentally strong enough to know that you have to do some pruning. If you cannot do the necessary pruning in your life, you will be held back and
Yep.
you won't get to live
Yep.
to your full potential. And then it still boils down to
Hmm.
taking responsibility for yourself. So when you have the ability or you have the capacity to do the mind map and then to do the mind inventory, then you are taking responsibility for yourself. And then the moment you decide to take responsibility for yourself, I think your perspective shifts a bit, and then you are able to see things differently, and you'll be able to take like more calculated risks because now you are sure of who you are and what you can do, what you're capable of at the moment, and then also what you'll be capable of in the future. So I would say most of the founders
Yeah.
I've spoken to also,
Yeah.
you just have to do that hard stuff so you can be free. Maybe, yeah,
Mm,
so you can be free.
mhm. Yeah. Free is a um
Well,
great
free,
way to
yeah,
say
but
it.
you'll
And
be
and
working.
I, the other yeah, yeah. But like free mentally and the burden of like all of this kind of false pressure that you put on yourself is what you're getting at. And ultimately, what we're also really, if you boil down what we're saying, is just this concept of self-awareness, right? It
Yeah.
is it's just so important throughout this journey. What would your I have a thought on this too, and then we'll start moving forward because I could just be stuck on these concepts all day because you have a really interesting life. Uh, and so you have really these kind of profound insights on and thoughts. I think your thoughts are great. What
Thank you.
is your advice to somebody who really is like they just heard what you said and they're like, "Oh my god, I never thought about it this way," and the like, "Let's do a mind inventory. I want to do the hard stuff." They are completely alone. Because let's be honest, not everyone has the advantages that me and you had, which was like really loving, bigger, caring families. Uh, what would you say to that person?
Hmm. I'll tell the person, if you make decision, calm down first. Because many people rush to, dive
Mhm,
in and do a mind map or do inventory. It's hard. So I would say, calm down first.
right.
Actually prepare yourself because you might find something that you are not ready to face. So my first
Yep,
advice would be to calm
yep,
down, take
yep.
a deep breath or several deep breaths and put yourself in a relaxing position. Maybe go to the beach or go somewhere you are calm. And then start
That is
with what you are comfortable with. You don't have to do it in one day or in a week. Start with what you're comfortable with. If it's something, maybe it's just two things you can let go of. Start with that. It will like build your tolerance to, doing more pruning because when you let go of maybe two, maybe inconsequential things and you see the improvements you have in your life, you'll be like, okay, maybe I should, cut more stuff out and then
right,
see how my life will
right.
improve, or maybe I can put in more, like impute a different, let's say, programming level in my life. Like maybe I'll put a yoga, I'll start doing yoga in the morning, or I'll start doing meditation in the morning. Like you just have to, it's like plus and minus. It's a balancing thing. So I would say the first thing, just
Yeah,
calm down, don't rush, don't
yeah,
try and do it all at once because you might hurt yourself. Just do something small
yeah,
first, and then
yeah,
from there you can go forward.
yeah. Amazing, amazing insight. Thank you for sharing that. I would actually layer on to that too that a lot of this is hard to do alone, right? And really just talk about and the urgency of like me and you exist in this world. More than happy to help somebody have a conversation that, really wants to do that. And I think the third thing that I would layer on to both of the amazing points that you made are I think this is a lifelong pursuit, right? You can't look at this like, "Oh, I did a mind map and inventory and now I'm done." It's like, no, no, no. This is like a
Nah, it's just the
ongoing
beginning.
process.
Yeah.
Just the beginning, right? All right. This has been fantastic already. We are already, believe it or not, we already a half hour in pretty much.
I can't even
And
believe
we've
that.
barely scratched the surface. Yeah, it's because it's fun. There's all
Yeah,
meaningful.
it is. It is.
Very,
I'm
very important
I'm I'm
stuff.
getting more at ease speaking now.
Good. Yes, and that's one of my benefits of helping people out is I probably should just start this as a side hustle as well as like talking to people to help them be more comfortable talking, right? You would
Okay.
think, okay, is that even a thing? But it is definitely a thing. I've seen it over time. So let's get to more of the like tactical stuff for a little bit
Okay.
to kind of progress forward. I did lie though, because because I do have one more question. And it is this importance and concept of what you touched on was this big, loving, caring family or people that deeply cared about how you were or what you were going to be as a human being. Can you just talk to me or reminisce about that aspect of your life? Because I think you're very fortunate that you had that. But I think what I'm looking for is right. Like, oh, what did that feel like? What were the benefits? Maybe there were some negatives, but talk me through growing up in an environment like that.
Okay, so I'll say growing up in an environment like that really shaped me in a good way. I had the support, I had friendships from, when I was younger, lifelong friendships with my cousins. So we grew up together. So I always had people in my corner. Well, I would say the bad side was always having to share my bread because they were it was it was funny. Okay, so yeah, but I mean, growing up with a large family, it's a different feeling, because you're not alone. Even though you might be going through something, one phone call, you have people who will come out for you, and then that gives you a different kind of confidence. I would say. So I would say that's actually
Yeah.
improved my confidence
Yeah.
because you have to speak up if you're in a large family. If you want to be heard, you have to speak up. You have to be assertive. You have to be you know. And from my mom's side, I'm the first child of my mother, and I'm the first daughter. So there's still that extra, will I say, extra responsibility that the first daughter, the first child, has. Especially in African homes, you have
Mm,
more responsibility. You have to know to be good. You can't afford to, make silly mistakes, and then that really shaped me because, I have to think about what I want to do. If people are trying to, do something silly, I have to think and say, no, you know what? I'm the senior here. I am supposed to be the leader. So I would say, that has shaped me for leadership. I would say that, yeah, it really shaped me for leadership because now to lead is almost it's natural to me. Like even if I go to like programs, if they are looking for who's going to be the captain or the president, because of the way I carry myself, people will be like, "Oh, let Omoruwa be the president." And I'm like, "Are you serious? Can you just leave me alone?" But I would say, it has, shaped
yeah.
me. It made me carry myself with a different kind of confidence. Like when you see me, you know that I'm not someone, to play around with. So yeah.
That super interesting insight in the sense that, and thank you for sharing that, by the way. Being growing up in America, that wasn't really part of the household, right? Like I'm the first. I'm a family of two. I have a younger sister. It wasn't like there was as a cultural family thing to be like, hey, this is a very important position to be in. You more did it if you grew up in a good family. I think just by default, you felt a responsibility because you were the older one, right? But when you're little, you're not thinking about any of that stuff. And you explained it more of like, especially in an African household, this is a big deal. Does that come from just like unspoken rules, or are you constantly reminded of that throughout your time? I'm interested in how this like
It's a bit of
rule
both.
or importance
It's a
kind of
bit of both.
manifests.
I would say it's a
Mhm.
bit of both. There are certain things you are
Okay.
told, and then there are certain things you are meant to do, and that's just how it is.
Yeah. And do you know if that comes from somewhere? Like, is that like based off history, or is that just more just a common practice in
It's a
African
common practice.
households? It's
It's
interesting to me.
common. You can talk to any Nigerian and they will tell you the firstborn usually has more responsibilities than like other children. So you are raised, I would say most firstborns are raised differently. You must be able to carry responsibility.
Yeah. Now that's a beautiful insight, and thank you for sharing that as well. All right, we're gonna move on. Start getting out of chapter one, getting into chapter two.
Okay.
I think where I want to start really though in this, you just listed like so many different things, right? Like you were playing sports, you're from a big family, um, you're figuring out your so like you have this spark, and you're feeling this meaning to life, more tactical and tangible, as in, what did you start getting interested in? Like, what were you good at in school? Like, what was how did your mind start manifesting in that way of like your interest, how you're progressing, and this kind of progress from there? What did that look like to you?
Okay, so I would say I'm not trying to brag, but I would say I've always been really, really bright academically, like from my primary school to secondary school. So while I was in
Yeah,
primary school, I've always told
yeah.
everyone that I was going to be a doctor. And it's almost like the common thing for every young child to
Mm,
say, "Oh, I want to grow up to be a doctor," blah 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 blah. But I was serious. I wanted to be a doctor. And I didn't want to be like a
right,
surgeon because I knew
right,
I wanted to be able to talk to people more, be able to impact people with my voice, my presence, my affection. Because I would say I am affectionate with my patients because when when you play with your patients, like in a good way, I don't mean in a bad way. Like when you play with your patients, you give them more relaxation and then they'll be able to trust you more. So I always knew I wanted to, be on the community side of things, to be able to talk to people, calm them down, So that had already been my plan to be a doctor. So I decided to go for the pharmacy route because that was where I saw that I can make an impact on people and still be a doctor and still be really, really like challenged academically. So I decided to go for science class in high school, in secondary school, and then eventually did some A levels, and then I went to university in Cyprus. I did a doctorate in pharmacy, and then I graduated. So when I was doing my doctorate degree in Cyprus, that was when I started, exploring other parts of me, capacities of mine. So it was then I started painting. I started, searching the internet, looking for how to sell my paintings. And that was when I came across the whole NFTs, of a thing. And before then, because as you said, I am multifaceted. I like to do things. As long as someone can do it, I know I can do it. You understand? So when I see something and
mm,
it challenges me, I must do what it is so that I can make myself calm down that, okay, it's just another thing. It's just another challenge. So before then, I was already
right.
trading.
Yeah.
I was doing day trading. I was doing stocks. I was trading Amazon. I was trading Apple. I was trading forex, crypto. Like I was really, really out there in the internet streets. Doing everything possible. So when I came across the NFTs, and I was like, okay, this is interesting, and we can also use it in like the blockchain technology, especially Ethereum. That made me really, really curious. And then I would say I went into a deep rabbit hole in the crypto space, the Web3 space. I was always on Twitter then, looking for alpha, looking for, airdrops, the everything. So yeah, so I've done quite a lot in the crypto space. I used to be a poet for some crypto artists. Like when they do their art, they'll come to me and then I'll write like a poem for the to like go along with the art. Like I've done all of that, and then in that time I did my web design company. So I was creating websites, e-commerce shop, Shopify for my
Okay, so
friends who
hold on.
wanted to do.
I'm gonna cut you off. I'm going to cut you off because you are just now ripping and tearing. You're going deep into chapter 2. I love it. Before we get to, and we'll
Okay.
pick up on the Web3 company. I'm really interested in this schooling. So we went quickly from like what you were interested in to being a doctor, and you were good at school. I think it's really interesting for people to and important for people to recognize their strengths, right? So you recognize that you were good at school and you double down on that. What were your you had to have some like type of insight or aha moment, especially for somebody who wants to be a doctor or is thinking about being a pharmacist, and like what was that long experience of going through school? I'm sure it was challenging. I'm sure you learned some things. Can you share one or two things from that part of your life? Because I think that's an interesting part that I did not want to glaze over.
Okay, so I'm gonna share this. When I was studying to be a pharmacist, I had like serious sickness. So I was sick for for a long time, for years. Like I had like a serious illness, and then the doctors were not listening. So I would say that experience, I had to go through a lot to find a particular doctor who was willing to sit down and listen to all of my complaints and like make a big picture and like kind of sort or join the dots together. So it took me a long time, and that experience made me realize that I don't want people around me, my community, to ever feel this way, to ever feel like no one is,
Mm,
listening to them. So that I would say that has made me a better healthcare professional,
yeah,
because no matter what it is that you come to me,
yeah,
like you come to my pharmacy, even if you say maybe there's one hair in your ear that is doing you somehow, I'll tell you, okay, sit down, tell me everything. Like it made me a better doctor, it made me a better listener, because I remember how I used to feel when I'm trying to like explain my symptoms to a doctor and the person just wants to quickly, pass me away so that I can, like, he can see the next
right.
patient. So I would say it has that sickness episode in my life. It made me calm down, made me, will I say, relax more when I'm talking to people that need my help. So it made me a better doctor. That made me a better doctor. When someone is dealing with a disease chronically, you need that
Hmm.
attention, that special, that listening, that trust. Because for me, I didn't trust any of the doctors that were trying to, rush me out, and that I would say that has played a serious role in my company now, ChroniTrack Health, because everyone who passes through any of my programs, they always, comment that they feel heard, they feel seen. So I would say that's an unfortunate event for me. I'll say it has turned into something meaningful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think what I pulled from what you said that I think is really important to reiterate is uh, personal experiences that like fundamentally shape you like that. If you can turn that into good, what you did, that is a really easy hack for making an impact in the world, right? Go through a bad experience and then go try to fix that bad experience. And that's what you
Yeah.
did. And I
Yeah, that's
think
what I
that's
did.
a really important. Go ahead.
Yeah, I said that's what I did. So that experience has shaped me, and I'm glad. Well, at that point in my life, I wasn't glad because I was going through a lot of pain. But now I am glad that I saw it from that perspective, so I can prevent it when I'm, creating solutions for the community I serve.
Absolutely. Awesome. So thank you for sharing that. I definitely wanted to get an insight out of that, and that was a really good insight. Now so you rock in school. You're starting to figure out not only do I want to be a doctor, I want to be a pharmacist because it allows me to engage with the community, get rid of the experience that I had. But then you were also saying you found Web3. You started exploring your other side of yourself of creativity. And then you were starting your own, I guess, was it Web3 marketing is what you were, our digital agency?
Yeah, digital agency. It was not
What
Web3
was it?
marketing. I was building websites. I was doing Shopify e-commerce for people who were selling online.
Mm,
So they had
gotcha.
the business, but they didn't know how to manipulate the technology at the time. So I was like, and it came so easily to me. It's not like I had to pay someone to learn or go to YouTube. Once I open the platform and I see it, I just know it. So yeah, it came really, I would
Yeah.
say I'm very digital native. So I don't need to
Mhm. Mm,
stress when I see a
yeah.
system. Once I just see it and maybe I see someone operate it, then I'll know it. And that's how I've been. Maybe it's a gift, I guess. It's a gift.
Yeah. Not only is it a gift, but I think the bigger gift is you have recognized repeatedly over time to embrace your strengths, right? Like people, if people just got rid of all of the noise and pick the top three things that they know that they're strong at and get feedback It's one to like inherently think you're good at it, but when you're constantly reiterated it by others that you're good at something, take those things and run with it and figure out how to utilize them. Because, for instance, you're talking about people skills and connections, and you're doing that by sharing this on the podcast. Same thing happened to me, right? Like, I know I have a knack for talking to people and I enjoy doing it. So, what was my output of that? It was being a podcaster. Your output was like, well, I like school and I'm good at school. I'm going to turn that into being community focused doctor, which
Yeah.
is amazing. Tell me about um so let's in chapter 2. I would also love, because now you're starting to explore many different things. So you gave a really good insight about the type of doctor you want to be based off of your personal experiences. 1 to 2 insights, and these could be like complete failures of like, I wasted too much time in crypto and it was all a joke and I shouldn't have done that and I became better because X, Y, and Z. Or I had an awesome success. Web3 and my marketing age were incredible. And this is what I learned. Give me 2 to 3 things that you can share about this part of your journey.
Okay. So it's a mix of it's a bittersweet story. So when I did my sojourn in the Web3 ecosystem, I had some success. I had huge success actually, bigger than what I could have ever imagined actually. But at the time, I would say I was not mentally prepared to handle that kind of, will I say, success. So I mishandled a lot of things and I had to learn a lot of hard lessons real time. Now, I would say those lessons I've learned have shaped me, have made me understand how to approach situations differently, like how to approach certain kinds of situations, what to rush, what not to rush, what to be certain of before putting yourself forward or making a concrete decision that can change a lot of things in your present reality. Because the Web3 period, the DeFi summer, the NFT run, everything, there was lots of adrenaline, dopamine, everything pumping in the air. Everyone was making Many people were making rash decisions. And I would say I made a few rash decisions of mine too, but I have learned that
Yes.
all of those, it's just part of the journey, because without that kind of experience, I wouldn't be as wide as I am today and I won't be able to handle certain situations with ease. Because what would have stressed me before, now it doesn't stress me because I know I already have my structures in place and nothing can really, shake me as it would have when I was not mentally prepared for that kind of success. So I started a crypto company. Actually, I did my own NFT collection, but I couldn't market it. So I spent a lot of money with the creation, working with artists, because I'm an artist too, but I didn't do the actual artwork. I did the creative direction, chose everything, but the I couldn't marketing was not my strong suit at that time, and I didn't really know that there was a, let's say, like a group of people making things happen. I would say that also taught me to understand the industry you want to invest in properly before you actually put up your capital and start making things happen. So that really taught me a lot. That part of my life taught me a lot, having to create something from scratch and then watch it fail in real time because you are not capable enough as you thought. So it taught me resilience. It gave me resilience to know that I can always come back from anything. And then it's better to even try and fail than to even than to say, oh, I should have tried that. Because if I didn't try what I did in like 2021, I wouldn't even have the story to tell you now in 2026. So I would say do what you can, try,
That's
and I
awesome.
accept that wholeheartedly. It's just I would say it was a very, very important turning point in my life, because I learned the value of certain things. I learned how loss can impact you, your mental health, your relationships with other people. Because when you go through something like something that can actually turn your life upside down, and you find yourself in a place where you
Mhm.
just have to be calm. You can't um you can't blame anyone because you are responsible. So you have to be able
Right.
to, yeah, you just have to have that resilience. And I would say, yeah, that's it. That shaped my
Oh,
life.
awesome.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome insight. So give me the this kind of like transition from chapter 2 to chapter 3, which is you did all this awesome exploratory stuff. You just gave us great insight on some things that you learned from that. Now, let's switch back to the pharmacy kind of route. Talk about your career and journey there, that which culminates in, and I'm excited about this moment where you said, "Enough's enough. I'm just starting my own company."
Okay. So after I finished college, I still stayed back in Cyprus. I was doing some business. I'm an entrepreneur. There's always one business or another. So I did some business for like 2 years, and then I decided to come home to try and establish myself, get my pharmacy. So when I came to Nigeria as a foreign trained pharmacist, you have to do a conversion program. You have to, reintegrate again. So I decided to go through that process of relearning, you know, again how to serve the community, because the community I was serving before was in Cyprus. They had different disease profiles than uh, the one in Nigeria. I would say I started from scratch again, started to learn how to relate to people. And then it was during my internship, when I had my 1 year mandatory internship, I started to realize that people actually need more than like more than the pharmacy structure or the health structure in Nigeria can handle. So I would say the turning point for me that made me stop from being just another community pharmacist to a technology founder is the period of time where I started monitoring my patients manually. So I realized many people, they will come to the pharmacy, they want their BP drugs, but I'll ask them, okay, when last you check your blood pressure? They can't remember, or maybe they checked it, but they don't have it written down somewhere. So now I can't even make reference to what your BP was previously in how I'm going to counsel you, or if I'm going to ask you to adjust your dose or stuff. So all of those little problems, when I talk to patients and they tell me, oh, I forgot to take my drug because I was rushing to work, or I didn't have an alarm, I'm like, okay, tell me your problems. Just tell me all your problems. I'll solve it for you. So what I started doing, I did the initial cohort. Like most of my patients are like 40 and above. So what I tell them is, you know what, I'm going to watch you. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to like give you instructions. I will just watch you. Let me be your oversight. Every morning and every night when you wake up, just before you take your BP drug, take your reading and take a picture and send to me. So I did it for one person, I did it for two people. And then at a point, I had 20 people sending me BP readings in the morning and in the night. And I was like, I have to respond to these people every time, manually, manually, manually. And I'm like, you know what? I'm too technical for this. I can create something that can collect all of this data and respond to these people, and give them that peace of mind. Because what I realized was that the fact that they know that their pharmacist can see their BP reading and tell them, okay, this is good, or go and take your drug, or calm down, that alone has already changed the way they see, their medication therapy. So you see that trust, I have
Mm,
built it. You can't just come and say, oh, technology, I have an app. No. Okay, you have an app. Who is going to use it when you don't have that relationship with the people? So when it got to 20 people that were
yeah.
sending me BP readings in the morning and in the night, I was like, okay, you know what? Let me just create something. So I just did a WhatsApp bot. I used Airtable, I used Zapier, I used Twilio, and it was in a sandbox. Like I just made something And then I tested it out with my patients and they were like, okay, so you mean if I text this right now, it will respond to me immediately? I'm like, yeah. And then when I saw that it was good, and I was like, okay, I can actually make this. This is actually something, because people were like, this is your small technology business. Won't you charge? I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me charge these people and see if they will pay, if they will agree to, pay for someone to be their oversight. And then I just charged a bit of money, and everybody who was sending me manually, they decided to pay. And I was like, okay, could this be the start of something I don't know about? But when I started talking to more people, some people were like, okay, please, doctor, can you do the one for diabetes? Can I be sending you my sugar readings so that you'll be checking it? I'm like, okay, this is an actual need. It's not just about giving them the medication or telling them check your BP. Is there an action? Are you taking action? So that was when I was like, okay, you know what?
Hmm.
I can do this. I can actually do this. Like, even if I'm starting with the people that are coming to just my pharmacy alone, I can do this. So I did it. I did it. I decided to, take the development further and create an app. So I used some AI platforms, and one of them even gave me like 10,000 credits to like continue building what I was building because they were impressed with what I did. So I was like, okay, this is amazing. And now I have like 76 people that I'm monitoring every day, that they send their readings every day. And it is an ongoing thing right now. And I haven't even like publicly launched. So it's just like I'm actually doing the work. So the name of my app is BP Tracker. So it allows the patient and the pharmacist log their BP reading. So the patient can log from home and the pharmacist will see. And if there's a high reading, the pharmacist is, alerted that something is off, and you can call the patient and say, okay, what's going on? Do you want to go to the hospital? That kind of stuff. So apart from that, I realized that the product itself cannot distribute itself. It can't just fly into the hands of the people who actually need it. So I decided to do a community
Right.
action program. So I have a program under my company, ChroniTrack Health. It's called HiMap. So it's hypertension mapping and action program. So we go to markets, we go to churches, we go to mosques, we go to offices, we go to communities like palaces, because I've had conversations with some community leaders and they've given me the go ahead to, go to the communities and perform these free screening events for the people. So what I'm trying to do with HiMap in essence is I want to create a hypertension map of the world. Like I want to know hypertension. I want to actively be tracking hypertension in every part of the world. I'm starting small with Lagos right now. I've done some places in Lagos State, some local governments in Lagos, and some in Ogun State. But it's something that I want to make a difference in the hypertension, with hypertension. I want to help hypertensive patients so much because
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
silent killer.
Yeah.
And many people, they don't even know that they have, like the reason that I started this, there was the first program I did in the market. There was one woman, she was hawking like fruit salad. So I called her like, mama, come, let me do your BP for free. She was like, are you sure it's free? I'm like, yeah, it's free. So she came. Her BP was really, really high, and she didn't even know she was walking under the hot sun. So imagine if I wasn't there that day.
Right.
That's like, that's my own thought. Like, if I can do it, I know how much I will be able to impact people. I can save a lot of people. So why not do it when it's not even a problem for me to do it in the first place? Do you understand? So yeah, I'm really, really
Mhm.
passionate
Yeah.
about my work. I wouldn't call it like just a business. It is my purpose to be able to hold like that kind of responsibility, because it's not easy, to be honest, to have that kind of responsibility, to take it upon yourself to have that responsibility. And that's what I've decided to do, because I know I'm capable. I can make this change, and I'm already making the change even with my own resources. So imagine how it would be like if I have partnership with the government or with, you know s- different things, like too many things. The possibilities are so endless, and I want to be able to be that person to prevent stroke before they even happen by monitoring. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. That's so cool. And I literally wrote this down. I think it's the most beautiful thing that you said without saying it, which is tech plus human connection or human caring and interaction becomes an afterburner for success and impact. More actually, I would take the word success. I don't think it's the right one. It is it is an afterburner for impact on life. And I don't think I've ever heard somebody describe it that way. And I think you were just, going through your thought process. But
Yeah,
that is such a fundamental, beautiful thought, which is especially as all of this is collapsing, right? Like I was telling you before, I have an AI agent that I feel like I'm Superman right now. Like I can do 100 things at once
at
because I
once.
have
Yeah,
this pretty smart executive assistant slash researcher slash coder working for me 24/7. And
exactly,
so that's all fine and dandy. But if you're not having a conversation with somebody, what's the point, right? Can you
exactly.
expand on that, or was there a um, even though you kind of subconsciously said that and it wasn't part of your point, was there a moment in time where you kind of aha, like, oh, I have this tech, but it doesn't matter if I'm not talking to anybody. Is
Yeah.
there something there, or do you just want to expand on the agree with the thought
Mm,
in
I
general?
always
Because
knew.
it's an
I always
amazing thought.
Okay. So for me, I always knew um technology without trust was not going to fly. So the reason I know that for sure is because in 2019, I actually built my first app. It was also a pharmacy app. So I was in Cyprus. So it was just before the COVID period. So I built an app to connect users to pharmacies in North Cyprus. So it was in Turkish and it was in English. But I wasn't able to find people to use the app because they didn't know me. They didn't trust me. And even if they wanted to, why should they stress themselves to use something from someone they don't know? Do you understand? So that already has shaped my understanding of technology without trust is not gonna fly. And then also previously I was also like consulting for like food delivering businesses in Cyprus. So most of them will come to me like, I have this little budget. I want to do adverts. And I'm like, okay, you want to do adverts, you have a little budget and no one knows you. Nobody can speak. There's no word of mouth talk like from people like, oh, your food is nice. How do you expect people to download your app and, order from you? You need to have one-on-one talk connection, with people. So I've always known that technology without trust is going to be harder to fly. And also from my experience in the pharmacy, I know for a fact now that without trust, you can't even help your patients because they won't even be comfortable enough to tell you what is really wrong with them. That is the real truth. So you must build that rapport. You must build that connection first. Any like
Yeah.
where I
And
work, like my boss, she said something, said I have changed the energy of the pharmacy because right now people come, they will sit down in the pharmacy and we just talk. It's not like I want to sell them any medication. It's just that relationship building. So no matter where they are in Lagos, if they are sick and they need medication, they would travel far just to come and see that pharmacist that will smile at them and ask them, how are you? How was your day? Are you okay? You understand? Like that relationship building, it does so much more than what people can realize. It does more than even marketing, like with people who have lots of marketing spend, because you can advertise all you want, but if someone doesn't trust you and your service, that's just how it's going to be. So it's so
right.
important to build that rapport.
Yeah. Trust is such a powerful world. What's really fun and exciting to me is we both have come to very deeply similar realizations just in our own way, right? I am firmly convinced my podcast brand will is successful and will continue to be successful because of that trust, right? There is not um I've had people on this show live online, like not recording, like straight live online, say some like deep, really incredible, meaningful things because I really work hard to try to build trust and make you feel comfortable. I think it's
Yeah.
the most part. That's actually my job as a podcaster. People at the podcast get all caught up in like, what's my theme? What are the questions we're going to ask? And it's like, no, 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 no. You're doing it all wrong. You want you want the person on the other side of the conversation to be their true self. And how do you do that? Number one thing is just treat them like a genuine, good
Human
human
being.
being and build trust. I, yeah, I think it's that simple. Right? Yeah, 100%. And I think we don't need to make it more difficult. We make all these things in life so darn difficult. And at the bottom of at the end of the day, it's the stuff that we're talking about right now. They're very simple concepts, right? And we make it so, so complex for no apparent reason. And and so I want to take the rest of the time to talk about. So you talked about your blood pressure app, but you still do have like a formally named company, right? So I want to talk about the ChroniTrack Health company, and let's just take a moment. This is almost like elevator pitch, right? 2 minutes or
Okay.
less. Describe to me exactly what Crony Health is, or
ChroniTrack.
ChroniTrack Health is. What Yeah, ChroniTrack Health is. What are you trying to do, and what are you all about? But, like, obviously short and concise. What would that be?
Okay. Okay. So ChroniTrack Health is a digital health company that is tracking and monitoring chronic diseases, starting with hypertension, using pharmacists, trusted pharmacists, as the decentralized monitoring hubs. So we are not just going to turn pharmacists into like dispensing uh centers, we are turning them into care hubs. So you can come track your disease with your pharmacist, starting with hypertension, obviously with PP tracker, the. But in future, I want to include other chronic diseases like diabetes, AIDS, mental health. Right now, I'm also doing some work with AIDS, but it's not my big focus right now. But
Yeah,
chronic track health, I want it to be the
yeah,
infrastructure that governments, hospitals, institutions build their chronic disease monitoring platforms on top. So it can, like anyone, any patient can have all their diseases being via ChroniTrack Health. But right now, since we are still small, we are starting with hypertension, and I would like to capture the market well before diversifying into other chronic disease.
yeah. I love how you described it as, decentralized health via pharmacies. Like, your one-liner totally should just be, decentralizing health through community-driven hubs or something like that, like, because that's what you're doing. It's
Yeah.
really cool, and I loved how you explained that. My first question comes to mind, and I'm sure you think about this often. What the most difficult thing I think is me and you both deeply agree on, uh, connection, uh, just this community, local based trust, building this trust is critical to life, one of the core elements to life. How do you scale that, right? You're scaling, you're building up, and you're going through these pharmacies. So I think you obviously think about that, and my head immediately goes to that's a hard struggle, and that's a hard equation to solve. So how do you think through that on scaling but staying local and trustworthy?
Okay, so that's where the power of partnerships, come in. So you don't have to eventually, talk to
Hmm.
so many. Like right now, I'm talking to pharmacists individually because I'm doing a small cohort. But eventually, when I want to scale, I'll be going through the associations that we all belong to. So when you have a formal introduction from your association, I think there's a barrier, there's a lowering of the guard of the people you're trying to, let them use your software or your technology when you are introduced via partnerships or associations. So right now, I'm talking people one on one, and I still intend to talk to all the pharmacists I want to bring on board, like one on one, because I like when people see me and you know that I'm a human being too. I'm not like one robot or one person that is out of reality. So I would say talking with people one on one, and then also using the power of partnerships and introductions to reach the people you want to reach.
Yeah, totally makes sense. And then the next question is, I'm just really interested from a business model perspective. How do you make money? Because
Okay.
you have to pay
So,
for things, right? Like
of
in a
course.
perfect world, it could all be free and it would be amazing, right? But you have to make money. What does that look like?
Okay, so making money right now, the patients are paying for subscription for the BP tracker app. But in the future, I'm already
Mhm.
speaking with like insurance companies, hospitals. So
Yeah.
I'm working towards taking the burden of payment off of the patients and onto institutions like insurance companies, their employment associations, stuff like that. And another thing I have in mind is like after a certain amount of time when we've generated enough of data from our company, we can license the data to like pharmaceutical companies who need this kind of data to how do I put it, influence their decisions in drug making, in drug distribution for African
Yeah.
markets as well. So that's
Yep.
another market entirely, but it's not something that is feasible, at the moment, but it's something that can be done in the future. So right now, it's basically subscription payment from patients, and then in the near future, I want to shift the responsibility of payments onto insurance companies and employers.
Yeah. And so multiple thoughts up here. The first one is I'm assuming the reason why ultimately institutions, insurance companies and stuff will be interested in this is you'll be able to prove a track record that people are healthier if they use your
Yeah.
service. This is as simple
Yeah.
as that, or am I missing something?
Yes, it's as simple as that. And at the same
Okay.
time, insurance companies will be glad to use my service because then they can track, what service has been provided to the recipients of their insurance policies when I have built out,
Yeah.
my platform. But right now with hypertension, tracking of medication, tracking of how your systems work, like with the medication, like preventive wellness leads to the insurance company having to spend less money because when you are preventing illness by taking your drugs and tracking your chronic disease, obviously you are doing what you're meant to do and you are going to avoid crisis. So the insurance companies are happy to pay because in the long term they are avoiding strokes, paying for you know heart attacks and stuff like that. It's a
Yeah,
win-win. It's a
which is
no-brainer.
more money they have to pay
Yeah,
out.
the more yeah. So
Mhm.
they rather pay for
And what you
prevention than to
said
pay for the act.
what you said yeah, what you said, which is interesting, which my mind did not go, which makes sense, is you're also supplying this really rich data and holding these people accountable to actually do the things that they should be doing. That is almost even more powerful than obviously healthy people is a great outcome, but how do you create a mechanism which it goes all the way back to the discipline stuff that we were talking about. The ironic part about what you built is you somehow still continue to build the discipline within the things that you're doing,
Y-
but you're doing it as a byproduct for other people, which is really
y-
cool, right? And that's why we do what we do on this podcast. Because I would have never been able to have that comment or that insight if we didn't go down the path we did in the beginning. And you shared all this amazing information. So that totally makes sense. The third question that comes to mind, because I'm interested in this because I'm sure you can pull some thoughts out about other businesses or parallels, or maybe there's people around the world that have similar situations where the healthcare needs something like this, and you're basically giving them a playbook to do it. My question though, being from America, even though our healthcare is really expensive, I think it's relatively, um, I mean, if you have if you have the money, you can get phenomenal healthcare, right? But there, even with that, there is an awareness that like you're going to go to a family doctor, and these things are important. How I'm interpreting what you're saying is we're in 2026, and these seems like pretty basic things that are still not getting taken care of at mass. Why is it? Why is it that way?
because the structures that are present right now were not built to serve lots of people. So we have to build
So
new
there is a
infrastructure.
scaling issue involved.
Yeah,
Okay, so the infrastructure that makes sense to me. So like you're in essence doing like a couple things here, like a couple really big things. One, you're building local community and trust. Two, you're starting to build the backbone and the infrastructure that allows the scale and get this insight. Um, and three, you're ultimately saving lives, which is super, super cool. One of the things, and like this is a little bit of a tangent, but I'd really be interested in your thoughts here. So you see in the media, especially here in America, and you'll see like, big entrepreneurs and they're always talking about Africa. It's like Africa, Africa, Africa. It is the next boom in the world economy. It's ripe for opportunity. Do you disagree or agree with that? And if so, like, what are your thoughts?
of course I agree. Apart from being an African, it is
Yeah.
the most obvious business move because um ham- uh, over 50% of Africa's population are youths right now, and then in the future they will be the adults.
Yeah.
So we need infrastructure, we need services, we need products, we need companies, we need a lot of things set to handle that outburst when this generation reaches its potential. So, and a lot of places in Africa are, would I say, subdeveloped. I won't say underdeveloped, but there is so much potential for change, for growth, for success in Africa. So anyone who is thinking of investing in Africa, don't think twice.
And do you think it's beautiful insight? I appreciate it, by the way. So that sometimes you read other articles and there's this overwhelming narrative in social media, and it immediately makes me question: is this real or is this just an agenda item? But with your insights, that it totally makes sense to me, right? Especially with the 50% less youth. And but you said one word that I think is interesting to me, and I want to define that. Like you said, subdeveloped. So they're not underdeveloped; they're subdeveloped. What does that mean? Like, does that mean that they're primed and the infrastructure is set to grow? Or is there a tech infrastructure problem still? Like, what did you mean by that? And is the stage set to just grow now, or are we still like need better Wi-Fi? We need better tech infrastructure. What are your thoughts there?
Okay, so what I mean by subdeveloped is I don't mean that it's not underdeveloped. Like there are places that have been, touched, but there are places that still need a lot of civilization upgrade. Okay. So in my opinion, why I said
Mm,
subdeveloped, we have the people who have the brain and we have the resources already to be able to, you know, create something out of nothing. But what we need is the same thing I've been singing, infrastructure. So I wouldn't say we are underdeveloped. That's
mm.
why I said subdeveloped. We have what it takes to be developed, but
Yeah.
there is no
Yep.
infrastructure to create something from nothing. So that's why I said, we need help to do.
Yep. So that totally makes sense. When you say infrastructure, what does that mean? Does that define that for me? Because that's a big word,
So
right? So, like in your
infrastructure. So
opinion, what is the infrastructure?
when building in Africa, infrastructure, the first thing you need um a really strict set of rules. What you will do and what you will not do, how far you want to go, and
Mm,
what's your limit, you know. And then you also need
yep.
help of people in the government, because really, if you are trying to do something big in Africa, you need assistance from the government. You can't do, there are certain things you can't just do by yourself on your own. You need to have those connections, and then you also need to have the right team who believe in what you are doing and what you want to do for that place, for that community, for that state, for that country, whatever. So infrastructure can be a lot of things. It can be the people, it can be the team, it can be someone that can get you what you need. It can be someone who knows someone that can, get you, like, it's all about connection. Human connection is the number one thing, first of all. And then assistance
I
from
love it.
the
Hey,
the right
you're
the
speaking my
right body.
language.
Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah. So you
You
need
know, what's
infrastructure.
interesting to
Like, I
me
don't
though
even know
is
how
because
much I can explain that, because it's so broad. It's really, really broad. It's not just about Wi-Fi or,
it's very broad.
yeah, it's not just about Wi-Fi, because when you're doing business in Africa, many of the businesses that would make you a lot of money they are not internet-based businesses. So that's why I'm not really bothered about the Wi-Fi stuff. The boring businesses make more money, you know, it's more stable. So you need people. People, you need good roads, that kind of stuff, to be able to have distribution.
Yeah, no, it's because my mind immediately goes to roads, uh, fiber being laid down.
Yeah.
What fortunately Starlink's a thing, right? So
Yeah.
is like revolutionized remote access to Wi-Fi, right? So it's all these things, but I love the angle that you went is infrastructure means so much more. And it is having the proper systems in place to allow you to rapidly grow. For instance, people talk a lot about MIT and Silicon Valley. They have the infrastructure to rapidly, like, no, nowhere else in the world can you say, hey, I have an idea. It's in a PowerPoint deck, but you have the right connections, and there's people like, yeah, I'll give you $30 million. And if that goes up in flame, I'm willing to take that risk. Right.
That was just crazy.
That's insane to me that
Of course.
we've built this infrastructure of failing fast and massive risk. And there's enough people that are like, yep, I have enough money, or I am so bullish on this idea, or just willing to take this risk of millions of dollars going up in smoke. Because, by the way, 95% of the time, that's what happens.
That's what happens.
And that infrastructure, yeah, that infrastructure that you described, I think is a beautiful insight. That's going to make for a fantastic short. Okay, let's do this. That was a beautiful. Thank you for answering that question for me, because I keep on reading, like, just the ripe opportunity for business and entrepreneurship, and how young the nation is, and just how much opportunity there is, which is exciting because we've met and I have a million ideas about that too. So we're going to continue to build a friendship offline, and I cannot wait to talk about all of these different things. Let's do this. We will, um, so one, let me know if there's any other thing that you want to cover about your actual company, the journey, and what you're currently doing. If not, we'll go, what does the next 3 to 6 months, maybe even a year from now, look like for you? Like, what excites you? Where do you think you're going? I actually have one other formal question that I always ask every guest at the end. It's a softball. You do not need to worry about it. It's a very easy
Okay.
question. And then I'll give you my call. Hey, how does that sound?
That sounds nice. Okay, so let me talk a bit more about my company. So as I said earlier, I want to, expand into other chronic diseases. But for the one I'm focusing on, which is hypertension right now, I have lots of ideas. I want to, first of all, conquer Lagos, and then, move to other states in Nigeria. Um, Layers with pharmacists, hospitals, community healthcare workers, and bring them into the platform so it can be used widely, you know, by people who really need what I've built it for. So apart from that, I am also looking into hardware. wearables that can do continuous monitoring for hypertension, because it's such a serious problem if we're being honest. And then you can be actually hypertensive sitting and talking to me right now, and you wouldn't. So I'm
Yep.
really looking into
Yep.
wearables, like having like a smart wristband or something that will continuously monitor hypertensive patients, and then the minute it gets a bit elevated, you have an alert. Or before it starts to get elevated, when you start to have spikes after 2 or 3 days, your pharmacist, like the application or the AI that is going to be connected to the wearable, will be able to calculate 3 or 4 days before, when someone is trying when someone's system is out of balance. So I'm really looking into wearables a lot. Having my own wearable so people can use. It's not going to be cheap, but it's something I want to deliver. If I can deliver 24/7 hypertension monitoring, that will make me really, really happy.
Yeah, that's amazing. And again, there's subsidies and the infrastructure that you were talking about. Maybe you can actually make that device affordable because of these reasons that we talked about. Thank you for sharing that insight. That's very exciting, and I think you're just doing such meaningful work, and you have such a cool background, and I think
Thank you.
you are doing it in the right way. And I cannot wait for thousands of people to watch this. And like I said, we've already made the impact that I know we will make, which is there's no way one person does not watch this and say, "Oh, that clicked with me." Doing my superpower with meaning and building trust and human connection. If I just add that layer and not think about it as I want to make a ton of money so I have a beach on a house on the beach and I can do nothing. That's not the answer, right? The answer is all of the things that we talked about today. I really deeply appreciate that. So next 3 to 6 months, what does it look like? What are you excited about? What are the top tier things you're working on? Share anything you wanna, and you
Okay.
can even go out to a year if you have a bigger plans.
Okay. So in the next 3 to 6 months, I want to have like 100 pharmacies actively using Bitrack, and then I want to have done at
Love it.
least half of Lagos State time map, like going to different communities and measuring, the people there, continuously monitoring those who are high risk, and basically make an impact on at least 1 million people in the next 3 months. That's really what I want to. After
So
having
good.
like 100 pharmacies, I want to expand out of Lagos, into other states in Nigeria, and then eventually to neighboring countries like Ghana, Kenya, and global. So I obviously that can
Fantastic.
be done with just word of mouth or a few resources. I want to build to an extent where I can raise from strength, and then hopefully I get investors who are aligned with the work I want to do, not just having to make money. Obviously, my business is going to make money because we are doing something very important. But I want people who actually believe in what I'm doing, investors who would fund the idea because they know that this is something that the world needs. Not just I want a quick return on investment. I want aligned investors. So that's why I'm not really in a rush to try and raise a pre-seed, blah 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 blah. I want to show that my stuff is working, even though it's working and I can see that. But I want to do it at scale, and then raise from strength and build a thriving business, a thriving company, and then while having that thriving business, still impact on people positively. So it's like a social entrepreneurship kind of thing. But money is important. Without money, you can't really make an impact. So money is important, but I don't want it to be the bone of contention while building my business or while attracting investors.
You're in luck. I know a beautiful human being. He's incredible. His name's JT.
Okay.
He's hyper connected. He's been doing investing and funding, but has also run his own executive management placement company for companies like yourself that one, find funding, but then two, when you get funding, you need people that have been there and help you scale this thing. This is not an easy thing, right? But, and I'll send you his podcast because you should
Oh,
listen to it. What's cool is if they come on my podcast, they're human centered and just want to help people be good people. He is the salt of the earth guy. So I cannot wait to connect you two. Yeah, I think you'll have a
okay.
meaningful conversation.
That would be nice. Thank
Two, of course. Two, what is the best way? Like someone listens to this, what is the best way to get a hold of you? Is it your LinkedIn profile? Like I put all this stuff in the YouTube description and the podcast descriptions,
Okay.
but how
All
would you
right.
prefer to reach out to you?
LinkedIn is fine. LinkedIn is fine because I'm mostly on there these days. I've left Twitter and Instagram. Now I'm not a LinkedIn girl, so LinkedIn is fine. And also, I
Yeah.
started writing again. So I used to write before, but kind of had like a creative block. So recently I started writing again. So I started a publication on Substack. It's the preventive future. So I write on entrepreneurship, the future of
Nice.
medicine,
Yeah.
founder strategy, like basically the hard stuff in my mind that I find it hard to speak about on video. I just type it all out. So I have a Substack. People can subscribe also and read my thoughts. I think I'm going to release another publication maybe in 2 days time because I have it all typed out. I just haven't edited it yet. I'm too busy. But I
That's
would say
so
I
cool.
am
That's so
exploring
cool.
all parts of me these days. I would say I used to kind of be in a shell. People around me know I'm smart, I'm brilliant, I can do things, but I was afraid being visible, like being seen. But now I'm going back into my authentic self. I am I'm getting to become more
So
and
good.
more confident in my and in the fact that I actually have abilities that can assist people. And then there's one that has stayed with me for a long time, especially like since I started doing business since I started, having more audacity is I don't know who has that quote, but it's as I have started to be as I have decided to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision. It is not important if I'm afraid. So that doesn't mean the fear is not there. The fear is there. But it's not important anymore. So it's one of the affirmations I say to myself every day if I want to like, keep kickstart myself or like give myself energy or ginger to go through my. It's not as if I'm not afraid. I'm afraid. I'm afraid because to do something like this, to do something that can impact people's life, it's scary. It's really, really scary. But as I've decided to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, it is not important if I'm afraid. So fear does not live.
Yeah. I love the audacity thing. I typed in Google as you were talking, like famous audacity quotes. Success is the child of audacity. Benjamin Disraeli, I don't know who that is, said that. And then Barack Obama, the best thing about the American spirit, I thought, having the audacity to believe despite all the evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, pointing
And
against.
you spoke exactly to that throughout, right? You need a little bit of that, especially to get through the hard times and I'm sure you can relate to this because I can, I've been this alone, right? Let's just take this podcast alone. I've been doing for over 5 years. And to not quit by this point because I don't have 100 million followers, but I know I'm doing the right thing it's difficult at times, right? You
Yeah.
get frustrated, you go through all of the things. But every time I have a conversation or a podcast like this, it's like, no, there's no way I will do this for the rest of my life because I think humans and humanity need it. And will make sure in the description to link your Substack, LinkedIn, and all of the relevant links. So,
Thank.
with all of that being said, we are winding it down, and I have the one more formal question. It's very
Okay.
easy. I would love your feedback live and I think the prompting question that I usually ask is along the lines of, you now have experienced for over an hour and a half the Mikey G podcast experience. If someone were to ask you, what it was like to be on the show and get to know me and go through this experience, what would you say?
How many words?
As many as you want.
Okay,
As
so I have
many
a
as
few
you want.
words. I have a few words. So first of all, I would say
Yeah.
it's exhilarating. Exhilarating because I feel
Oh,
comfortable enough to, express myself, my real self without having to, hide behind, you know, the social barriers, the social things that I expected. So I'm naturally a
yep.
very ambitious person. So the fact that I can speak about what I've done, what I'm doing, what I want to do without thinking, oh, maybe I should disguise. So that is exhilarating, made me very comfortable. And I like that so much. And then also it's still
Yeah.
inspiring because now that we are speaking, I'm actually being reminded of the things I can do. Because sometimes I do these things and then
Yeah.
it's just something I've done. But when you speak to someone that actually looks at
Yeah.
what you were doing and say, oh, this is actually a big thing. And okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not so small. So I would say, yeah, I am I'm excited. Excited, really, really excited. And I'm grateful.
Excited.
Very grateful.
Fire. Thank you. Thank you. Honestly, you used a bunch of amazing adjectives of excited, comfortable, and expired, and all of these different things. It really means the world to me because that's all I'm going for. If you get a skosh of any of those feelings, like even if you just got one of those coming through this process, I feel like I have done my job. If I can reflect on like the first thing that comes to mind is there's just so many fantastic nuggets through this entire conversation. I really don't know what to start. I loved how you talked about the importance of family, how closeness. We talked about bravery, like right off the bat, how you were exposed to everything. This was a pivotal moment in the conversation because I think you described it in a way that I had never heard about, which was the spark and how to find your spark. And there's an easy way and a hard way, right? And the easy way of waiting it out, the hard way. And then we got into this nitty gritty of mind inventory. I know what you're talking about, but I haven't heard anybody describe it that way. That conversation alone will change thousands of lives in the future. So thank you so much for sharing that. And you did it from your perspective. And I could tell you it was very thoughtful, deep, and meaningful. That's the other thing that I will say is it wasn't lost on me that when I was asking, that they're not tough questions, but they're like deep, they're deep questions. That's how I would describe that. You didn't just rattle off right away. You reset, and I could tell you were deeply thinking about like a meaningful response, and all of them were insanely meaningful. The other cool thing to see is that you absolutely calmed down through the process. It was kind of cool to see before we even came on the podcast. I could tell you were feeling very comfortable. That's another thing that I really concentrate on is to make sure you feel comfortable. And then just the things that you're doing in life, that the whole, you know, the main theme there at the end of the trust, the human connection, and this amazing way and insight of you described of technology is worthless unless you layer on human connection and trust to the technology. The way you described that, beautiful, beautiful insight. And then my only hope and ask is that you have a huge family, you have a huge community, you're making a big impact. You need to be sharing this YouTube podcast with as many people as possible because they need to hear this story. I think it's going to be a super successful podcast because you poured it from the heart and you did it the right way. So the last thing I will say is, like I said, I promise you this is the beginning of a friendship. I can't wait to introduce you to multiple people. I can't wait to tell you what else I do, and maybe there's ways for us to collaborate. I don't know, but it means the world to me that you took the time, you meaningfully thought about it, and you shared some intimate things. So thank you so much. I appreciate it so much. And with that being said, we had a solid hour and almost 40-minute conversation that felt like 15 minutes because we covered so many amazing things. And it was a long time, but it went by fast, and that's another indicator of you're doing something meaningful and exciting. So thank you all for the time. We appreciate you all. Mikey G and Dr. I'm gonna do it right this time. Dr. Omoruwa German. Did I say that right? I messed that up. I know I messed it up because I haven't said it. All right, I said it right. Fantastic. Mike, I was like, I hadn't said this in a while. I was nailing it at the beginning, but I was like, oh crap. So Dr. Omoruwa German and Mikey G are out.